And we're live. Woo-hoo.
Hi. Hi, Tristan. Welcome to the show.
Good to be here. Good to be here.
So fun meeting you. I met you online through Jen, who we had on as, I think she was our very first guest, actually. Tim, was Jennifer our very first guest?
Oh, was Jen Gilmore?
Jen Gilmore.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's how I met Tristan.
That's actually, I've literally just done a full StreamYard run through with her networking group this morning. That's who it was that I was talking about earlier. So,
yeah, I think I'm actually a member on Facebook of that group, but I just never get around to ever doing any of these things. I mean, anything in the morning, there's never a good chance that I'm actually going to get around doing it.
I think, is it Latte and Live? Is that the group?
Yeah, Latte and Live, yeah.
Yes, and I met you. I happened to stay up crazy hours because I'm in San Diego, and I happened to meet you. It was like 2 a.m. for me, or 3 a.m. So, but welcome to our show.
So, what is the man that Christelle meets at 2 a.m. in the morning like?
That's a leading question, Tim. A leading question. So for those who don't know me, my name is Tristan Griffiths. You can find me as I'm Tristan G across all the socials. I joked with Tim and Christelle literally 10 seconds before we came on that not knowing what we're going into, that's where I live. I live in the social media world and quite often end up speaking at events when someone drops out at the last minute. So for me, it's a comfortable space to be. Live streaming, speaking in person. I actually do teaching, training, consulting and building strategy for businesses around social media, and that's everything from solo entrepreneurs all the way through to consultations and activations for Microsoft, BBC and other multinational companies. They just have bigger budgets and bigger teams to implement. So wherever people are at in their journey, the agency that I run is in 9.media, and our whole focus is around removing the overwhelm from social media, content creation and live streaming.
Wow.
Okay.
See, I've done this once or twice before, right?
Yeah. So, what in your experience as Mr. Overwhelm Remover is the biggest thing that overwhelms people about social media, live streaming, etc.? What is the number one thing that you go in and say, sort this out?
Usually most people's problem is, I actually think our industry causes the problem.
Yeah.
Like as someone who teaches social media, we talk about, focus on your content creation. And by saying that, people go, but I'm not very creative. So calling it content creation can actually cause a roadblock. And I think whenever I teach content creation, I always talk about documentation is better than creation, because you don't have to think about that. Like right now, while we're live, this is documentation. Whereas creation, a lot of people think I've got to sit down, I've got to plan, I've got to do that. And with shows and things, there's planning, but in the moment, it's just documenting. And I think that's the big thing. From the client perspective, it's I don't know where to start and I don't want to make a mistake. And the reality is people are fairly forgiving on social. Like if you make a few small mistakes as you get started, people want to see you succeed. Like there's the odd troll on the internet, but most people around you are supportive and want to see you succeed. So it's about getting started.
So let's make it a little personal. Why did you start in social media?
I had quite an interesting journey into it, actually. I'm from a family of teachers, swore blind I would never teach, fully qualified chef by trade. And I went back to university to get a degree in digital media production. And whilst I was at uni, built an audience of 3 million people with no budget, ended up doing activations for Microsoft. I'm probably, Tim will laugh about this, in the UK, I'm probably the only person who has taken Microsoft's money and taken it and used it to get 200 students drunk at a house party. It's definitely not something that Microsoft would endorse. And in the black and white, we had to cross the T's and dot the I's to make sure Microsoft were happy. But they basically paid for a huge student house party that went from like 9 in the evening till 2 in the morning, 200 students in a house. It was pretty epic.
Okay, Microsoft headquarters is here. So how did you do that?
They pay for piss ups all over the world.
Yeah, they just not publicly. It's usually for the staff and team. If you can get them to part with the money for someone else, that's even better. So the connection there was while I was at uni, I basically ended up employing 40 18 to 24 year olds, had 100% team retention and built the audience of 3 million, which was primarily local people and students, which was exactly who Microsoft wanted to get in front of, because they were running this new thing. It was when they launched Access All Areas, which was a student product, and they needed to get it in front of students as quickly as possible. So you could say it was like an influencer type introduction, where we had the audience already sat in the palm of our hand because we were selling them tickets to nights out. We were giving away stuff. So they were, when we said, hey, go check this out, they did. And so the boring bit of it is they paid for the party and someone else coordinated and put it together. But actually, it's a much more fun story to say, Microsoft got 200 students drunk in the UK. And in return, obviously, we did lots of promotion of their access all areas when they were launching.
Okay. That's fascinating.
So it's I worked out enough with Christelle when she does that short pause, like
I was looking at you. Did you see me?
Question.
I was looking at you because I tend to keep asking questions, and Tim just
yeah. So, like, I know you're very active on StreamYard, which is, for anybody who doesn't know, is the technology that we use for this show. You're very active in the group there. And I also know that at this moment you are filming yourself from behind your head with that camera.
This one is actually a time lapse. What you guys can't see is that actually there's 2 other cameras off the side here, one in landscape and one in portrait, as well as the one we're talking on. Ooh. So underneath this live stream, I'll drop a picture later.
Right, between yourself. So like,
I don't do that, Tim. Send it to the team. Send it to the team. Let them do it.
So for anybody who's thinking of doing like a live show like this on any platform for any reason, what is your kind of, apart from the obvious advice, which is get started and don't worry if it's crap, what are your biggest kind of live streaming tips then?
I think when you're getting started, obviously getting started is the most important part of it. But when you're going into doing it for the first time, is know what you're going on there to do. And don't worry if anyone shows up, because yes, you're doing it live, but people watch replays. Like I always say in all my broadcasts, let me know down in the comments where you're watching from and whether you're live or on the replay. I do come back and check the comments. We'll have a conversation down there. So people know that we're going to converse afterwards. And it's not just if you miss it, like you missed out. Different people have different ways of working, but as a general rule, encourage people to comment. You're not going to have loads of people there at the beginning. Everyone worries about getting it wrong. But when you first start out, you're really lucky if people turn up. If you get more than, your mum and your brother and things like that, and a couple of good friends that see you.
I didn't even get that.
But it's like people expect it. And we have this big expectation that we're going to go live. And because we've been sold, there's millions of people on Facebook we can connect with. And, that when we go live, it's a great way to connect. People show up and we can talk in real time. And that also sets up sets us up for a failure in the fact that a lot of people go, right, I'm going into my first live. I'll go in with a vague topic with a couple of bits and then I'll talk to people. Well, if there's no one there to talk, you're going to stumble. So you have to be able to go on and talk, even if no one is there, and don't cut it off. Deliver what you're there to deliver. If people show up, then obviously talk, involve them, engage them, but know your show format as well. For me, I do a few different shows. So there's some that I don't do anymore, but I'll talk about them anyway. So I do one that's called 8 to 8, which is Monday to Saturday, 8 o'clock in the morning UK time, 8 minutes. And it's just knowledge sharing, something to help your personal life, business life, or relationships. The format is 8 minutes in, done, out. There's no conversation. That's that show format because it's quick. It's also because I'm building for repurposing and writing blogs. So it's a really quick way for me to do it. There's another show I used to do called Dinner and Digital Marketing, which we did twice a week when we were running that, because I'm a fully qualified chef, got a beautiful home kitchen. So I had 2 cameras set up, ran it through StreamYard. You could watch me cook and I'd teach you what I was cooking, but I'd also teach digital marketing. So one camera was one thing and the other camera was the other. So you could literally watch for food or learn digital marketing. That's a good way to leverage double audience. But that was very conversational. People would ask questions. But I went in ready to teach for half hour, 40 minutes if no one talked. But if they talk, we just answer their questions and go with that flow. So go on expecting no one to show up and be ready to talk. Know what your show format is. Some of the shows I do will be come on, talk, then answer questions. So I'll lead people into knowing that I'm going to answer your questions at the end. The reason for that is I'm really, really big on repurposing. We joked about the time lapse and the 2 extra cameras and things. Yeah. I'm creating portrait so that it can go straight into IGTV and into stories, reels, that kind of thing, landscape, so that I always like the fail safe. we're recording here, so we've actually got a landscape already. It's a different angle. It'll be just the raw thing with nothing on it. Like, it gives me other options. Time lapse, whenever you finish a show, the same as going into networking, post about it. Everyone does a show and then goes, right, show's done, I'm out. And you guys have done a good job of that. I've seen bits and pieces and like seen lots of shares and the promotion and things like that, which leads to the other part is when you're doing a show, don't just do it and expect people to show up. You've got to promote it. And yourself, and I did notice, Tim, your mug, if you can pull it up, you've got a Christine Gritmon mug in front of you, haven't you? So I've just been on a show with Christine as well.
I won a Christine Gritmon mug on from her show, being in the comments, which was she's actually going to be, I haven't told Christelle, but she's going to be on the show in a few weeks.
Oh, she's lovely. So, I mean, speaking of branding constantly and consistently and all that, I mean, you recognize her immediately.
I mean, she's got that red going on. It's all there. Yeah. Like I said to her, like, whenever shows finish, people talk, off camera afterwards for a few minutes. I said to her, you've done an absolutely incredible job of making it easy for me to promote when I'm busy. Because you guys know, we were like 10 minutes before and I was like, okay, scrape in at 8 minutes and then get to the 10 seconds and we're still talking. But knowing that even if I'm busy, there'll be digital assets there for me to use. And that's one thing where I talk about repurposing, creating more content, getting more out of it. My 8 at 8 is designed to be a blog. So it's recorded as a video to become a blog. Like when you do a live show, look at what can we do with it? Are there snippets we can take? Can we take parts of it? And also, if you've had guests, that's extra audience that you're going to get out to as well. So I think a lot of people think it's done and finished rather than this is a digital asset we've created. What can we do with it now? And like your intro is a good example of that. We've had people on, we're now showcasing people who have been on previously. Here's what to expect. So even if they just tune in for the first time, they've got an idea of what's likely to happen in the show, and it looks like a lot of fun, so that it'll keep people's attention as well. Yeah.
Okay, so like Tim said, you do a lot. So let me ask you, your favorite kind of client and why?
Interesting one. So we're a digital marketing agency, and interestingly, I have 2 different types of favorite client. One where someone has absolutely no idea what's possible. So you have to guide them much more slowly, and it's a slower process, but the growth potential is huge because they haven't even recorded a video. Like, we're not talking live even at this point. They haven't even recorded a video. They don't blog, like all of the potential of what they could do. And then you say, well, now you've done the recorded, now you're comfortable on camera. So you see so much progress. So I find that really, really rewarding. The other one is actually other agencies. Like, we've built Tim was on the other day when I was talking on Christine Gritmon's show about our business gives 10% back. So like, we use it as a force for good. And one of the quotes that got shared over Twitter was, humans inherently want to do good. You've got to make it easier for them to do it. And we do that through our business. But actually when we're showing people what they can do with all their content, the teaching training side of it, I can go one-to-one, I can win an individual client. If we get an agency, we don't care if people know it's us doing the work under the hood. We've built a system over the last decade that we know works to turn videos into blogs and social media content, and we operate under the hood. And when people come and say, can we see examples? We're like, a lot of our clients actually don't want you to know that they're not doing it themselves, understandably. So with agencies, the same thing. We've had agencies in London come to us and say, you sent me that information, but I'm pretty sure the numbers are wrong on it, because they obviously expected it to be a lot more money than it is. And when they look at it, and we're like, no, that's it. We've trimmed all the fat. We've spent a decade doing it. We've got a really slick process. As long as you follow our format, it works and we can do it quickly. I don't care what you're charging the client. So if an agency wants to take what we do and resell it, either they introduce us as a partner or they can completely white label it. So we've built our agency to be an agency that is, you can just pick up what we do and resell it to clients. So, like StreamYard community is definitely a place for me. Anyone live streaming, are they turning the live stream into a podcast? Are they creating social graphics, short video clips? All of that is content that we do. And we've just yesterday hired 2 new content creators, and we've got 13 more jobs out at the moment. So.
Wow. Okay.
So on your LinkedIn profile, and I had a look, and I was trying to make sense of like everything you do, and you've got this drum and bass thing, community, or at least you used to have. I don't know if that's a case of something that you used to do. So have you ever been tempted to do like live streaming where you're playing drum and bass music and cooking at the same time or something along those lines?
No, so
what are your interests?
So that's the brand you're talking about is the All Things Drum and Bass brand.
Yeah.
I actually, funny story to get into drum and bass, I actually got into photography, just doing a few normal club bits and pieces, got into UK hardcore, like underground dance music, and ended up, long story short, on the back of a stage, hired by an artist, third to last set of a massive festival. Was, you know, it was quite new to it, waited, got those photos because obviously you don't want to get in trouble before that. Once I'd done that, I'm like, well, if I get kicked out now, it doesn't matter. Went on the back of the stage for the very last set of the night, completely packed out arena, 2 really big artists, took some photos, everyone in hands in the air. And the next day I got an email from the promoter once I uploaded them, and they were like, love your photos, how do we work with you? And I was like, that doesn't happen. That's not real. That's definitely a fake email. So I literally rang their office and said, did you email me today? And they were like, yeah. I was like, okay, bye. And like hung up and then got back to them on email. I was like, and obviously took it on. And they then said to me, we want to work with you. How does it work? And obviously I didn't really know because it was all new. And once we started working together, they sent me all of the dates for the upcoming shows. And on the bottom, it just said, you don't do drum and bass, do you? ? And I was like, well, it's like twice the work. It's the same. It's basically the same thing, different music. And I went, can do. And so it doubled my workload overnight. Got to know all the big artists, built my own brand, ended up going out to events in like Spain and stuff to cover those. And I know all of those big artists personally now to be able to pick up the phone. And it's something that's kind of been put on the back burner. It's like there aren't events happening. I went away to Australia for 3 years. And when I came back, people went, oh, you're back. Are you available? And I was like, you're telling me in 3 years you haven't had someone pick up the slack where I was away for 3 years? But it's nice. Like it's flattering. But when I went back and I started doing it again, obviously then we went into lockdown, over a year of no shows, and that's how they make their money. I was like, this is tough for these guys. They only make money when they're on stage. Music doesn't really make the money anymore. And Facebook and YouTube with their copyright issues on music, that's a problem. And I went, how do I solve that problem? It's a side project for me, so it's not a big main project. And I was like, they need a live streaming service that's more like a TV than an individual broadcast, where they go live and people know they're going to be there and they show up. And as I went through the licensing side, which was super complicated because international licensing, local licensing, how many people, how many streams has it got video, like a million questions. Went through all of that. Then I was like, right, cost part of it to run the service, chat, video, because we're not running on anyone else's service. And we had a partner come on board and they said, we'll cover the whole lot. Like, so that we got that in place. And of course I can replicate, build it once, one for hardcore, one for drum and bass. So it's a project that's kind of still there on the back burner at the moment, that events will go back and will become hybrid. So I think it's important to look at, like, what's the shortcoming of live streaming? Well, for music, instant copyright takedown. Yeah. Some of the artists I know who own the music have had takedown on their own music because there's no easy way for them to say, I own this, and submit the paperwork to say it. So for me, I looked at that. Then I looked at the payment side. So obviously they currently do Facebook because you've got Facebook stars and subscriptions, but then as a business, like coach and mentor, my side of it is, how does that look for you? Okay, so you start today and you basically earn nothing from Facebook for 60 days because the money is held in their system. I was like, if we launched and you started, we're paying out, we could literally pay weekly because we don't need to hold that money. There's no reason for us to hold it. So I'm glad you picked up on it, Tim. It's actually a project that we've kind of been working on, and we're just waiting to find the right developer to put there's one piece left, and we've got it at website ready to become an app as well. So it will be literally an app. People could go on, subscribe and follow their favorite artist. You know, that'll be like a paid service. There'll be some free stuff in there, but they'll also get exclusive access. We'll then become a ticketing platform as well when events come back, because that's how it will pay for itself. So big project, but again, a side project. So can't put me in a box, right?
Well, to me, that sounds like one of those potential upside projects where that could be like, we could be talking to you in a year's time and you could be the
I'll have sold it to someone within the 12 months, probably build it and sell it, because like for me, I actually looked at with the hardcore one rather than the drum and bass one, because the strength of connections, audience and artists is stronger on the hardcore side because I've done it longer. I actually looked and went, do we fund it? How do we fund it? Who do we want involved? And I know I need a few big artists. It's like dominoes in the music industry. Once you get 2 or 3 of the big ones, everyone's like, what's that? How do I get involved? And so it's like dominoes. So a couple of artists, and we need their buy-in, but we did think about crowdfunding it as well. So allowing, if you're a really dedicated raver in that music industry, and we say like, you know, like a crowdfund campaign where like Kickstarter or something, where they can buy into or pre-purchase a ticket or a membership for the year. That means they haven't got to pay for the subscriptions. They get access to everything. It pays for the whole site. It proves, then you can prove concept over 12 months and then that becomes a bigger thing. And we've worked with like a few different people to make it all possible. Spoken to a few people. Everyone's like, this is brilliant. When are you launching it? I was like, there's this matter of funding. I'm not dipping in my pocket for this project. If it doesn't get funded, it's not happening. So that's the next step, is the funding side now.
Okay, so if anybody watches this, is watching this show now, or anybody who watches the replay or watches this on YouTube, and I'll make sure to put the drum and bass in the tags on YouTube because I'm getting really into YouTube now. So yeah, maybe somebody will like suddenly watch it, and then it's like, here's £10 million, Tristan. So
I mean, like, the thing is, I want the right people involved, and I want the people to own it. In the same way, why like blockchain and cryptocurrencies are popular is the decentralization. Is someone is still ultimately responsible somewhere. I want to facilitate it. I'm not fussed about running it. In the same way when we sell our services, I don't care if the end customer knows it's us or if we know that it's getting done. It doesn't matter to me. It's more about making sure it does get done.
Yeah. I find this fascinating that in the midst of lockdown, you've kind of found new and creative endeavors and ways to do things. So what has been the biggest challenge in the midst of this international pandemic, and how have you overcome it for clients and for yourself?
Biggest challenge for me, give you a context of my diary, because people say, what does a day look like for you? A week or a day is 24 hours, anything can happen. It literally is like that. And Mondays usually look like 15 back-to-back meetings and starting at 2 a.m. because I do, like we mentioned, StreamYard. I actually do the town hall notes for StreamYard as well.
I noticed that. It's
so
like, I've never gone to the StreamYard meeting because
you don't need to because I'm there, Tim. You don't need to because I'm there doing it for you. So
and then there's a post in the morning from Tristan saying, "Here's the bullet points, exactly what happened." In like really good detail. I mean, you're actually a very good note taker as well. I saw that was on your LinkedIn profile.
Town hall notes. So you say about that, Tim and Christelle, to answer your question, town hall notes is a thing that came out off the back of lockdown because we're doing like StreamYard notes for ourselves, and they basically reached out and said, that would be really handy. Can we officialize that so that we know it's definitely all? Because if you're doing it for yourself, I could stop at any point and it will stop. We also do it for Clubhouse, because with Clubhouse you can't go back to it if you're not there, you miss it. So for us, we do it and we email it out. We've got some fairly influential people on our subscriber list who can't physically make it, and I've had emails from them saying, thanks so much for doing this, because otherwise we'd have to spend the next week working out what's happened. So Town Hall Notes was born. It will probably merge into one of the other sites because as we use the same team now, it will probably go into there and do it. But it's all done live during the shows.
Yeah. Speaking of Clubhouse, actually, I think I went to one of your Clubhouse meetings, didn't I? Now that I remember this now. So you're big on Clubhouse in the midst of lockdown.
We host a free social media training club on Clubhouse. So we've been on it for a little while. There's, I think, 1,200 odd businesses in there in the club. And we guarantee we will always show up 8 p.m. on a Wednesday. We've only missed one since we started doing it. We do 90 minutes of Q&A. So if you're on Clubhouse, and good news, Android now. So if even the Android users can't cry on your show this time, is if they haven't got an invite or got past the wait list, because we run a club, we can actually invite 1,000 people into the platform without them needing to wait for that. So if anyone wants it, I'll put a link to this week. I'll send it over to you, Tim, and we can put it in the notes. Literally, it's a way to click and join and follow the club all in one go, which makes it easier. But yeah, we do 90 minutes Q&A, and we were doing Monday through Saturday, an hour every single day as well. We're reviewing what's happening with that, and there's a team of different professionals in social media who are owning different shows that will obviously reappear and have a set time, but we were testing. Now we're formalizing and putting it all back in.
Okay.
Right. So if you've done any research on this show, which I'm sure you haven't, there's a recurring question that I asked again. Well, there's a couple of recurring questions. So I will give Christelle a choice of, I can either ask Tristan the llama question or the free animals question.
Oh, okay. Well, you know what? I think I want to hear the 3 animals question, but either would be fascinating because I think he's going to be.
Well, the 3 animals question is probably quicker, so we're slightly running out of time. So if you had to describe yourself using 3 animals, which 3 animals would you pick and why?
Probably a meerkat would probably be a good one because of the, I want to be on everything. I want to see everything that's going on. I can't think of the animal that it would be, but I think a cheetah would probably be a fair representation. As you notice, when I'm teaching, I'd say people speak at 120 words a minute rather than typing at 45. I talk at 200 plus. We know, we've measured it. So the speed element from that, and I've got music in the background. When I'm working on, you think, Tim, when I'm doing those show notes, sometimes I have music on in the background as well. So it helps me to type faster. And the third one, it's a good one. Third one, it'd probably be some form of bird, probably because I like to travel, I like to go explore, and I like to just kind of go out and be free that a bird has. The
StreamYard dark behind you.
In fact, we're giving one of these away this morning as part of the competition in Jen's group. So to encourage people who hadn't live streamed before to get involved, and I said, we'll send out a mug and a puddles to whoever. Well, we also going to use the giveaway tool to do it. So we're going to do that end of June. So, in fact, do you want to include your people if they're not live streaming? We can put them in that if you want.
Absolutely.
So all they need to do is they need to do a live stream using StreamYard before the end of June, and they need to get it into my inbox, and then they'll be in, and then we'll obviously tell them there's going to be a show where we do the draw from everyone who's entered. They'll have to be on the show, and then it's a mug and a puddles plush toy. But before June, so we've given them a bit of a window to get used to StreamYard and how to do it.
Okay, so they can win a mug or can you show us the stuffed animal again?
Yeah, so there's these mugs are actually ridiculous as well. Look at the size of this. This is not like an optical illusion. It is nearly as big as my head. They are huge mugs.
That is the thing about American mugs.
Everything's sized up, right?
It's like, the one Christelle's got is massive. It's like, how much coffee do you need? You might as well just have a truck full of coffee and
your coffee across the pond, my friends.
even like the normal ones are like big ones, but like I won one from this .NET Rocks podcast years ago, and it was massive. It was like about this. It was about that size. So yeah.
Tim, when we make our mug, maybe we should do mini, just to be different.
Tiny, like espresso mugs.
I can't actually get round to ever doing any merch for the show, which I keep saying to do.
Depending which side of the pond you're going with that, I've got a connection for you, probably on both sides if you're doing some merch like that. Let's chat afterwards.
Let's chat. That's awesome. Tristan, it's been absolutely fabulous and fun talking to you. Where can our audience find you?
So I used to say I'm Tristan G across all the socials first, but I'm going to do it the other way around. In 9.media, which is our free community where we train people. It's like Facebook, so you can join, add me, and message me straight away in there. But also, I'm Tristan G across all the socials, except TikTok, but that's a topic for another day.
That sounds like an interesting topic, but people can message you individually to find out that story. So, like I was telling Christelle that I've often fluffed the endings of these shows where I say goodbye to everybody and then I'm in this sort of weird situation. But now, because I've been working on the YouTube side of things, for people watching the YouTube replays, in the corner there should be a subscribe widget of some kind that you can click on, which hopefully it won't be on the live show. So anybody's watching this live on YouTube, you won't see it. But in the replay, there will be a subscribe option. And thanks to everybody for watching the show.
Absolutely. Thank you, Tristan.
This is terrifying for me.
Last May's more money in the last 3 years than I did in the previous 7.
It's cliche shit, you know.